Hey guys, I just wanted to shoot a quick video because I got a lot of positive feedback from the last video I did on 2nd Nephi chapter 2. This one's going to be way shorter because it's just a thought. Shayla, my wife, was reading last night, and she was reading about Lehi's vision of the tree of life. And after he gets to the tree, there's some steps to get. Well, let's cover those two because this is going to be short anyway. So when he starts out the vision, a man in a white robe approaches him and says, "Hey, follow me." And so Lehi follows the man in the white robe, and they travel for hours. At some point, he loses the man in the white robe. We don't exactly know when or why or how. But Lehi gets lost, and he's like, "Now I'm lost. It's dark. This is an abyss. I've been traveling for hours." And so he calls on the Lord, and next thing you know, he sees a tree that is glowing. It's white. It's got fruit that will make you happy. And he goes to the tree, and it's great. And so he casts his eyes around, and he sees his wife and two of his sons, Nephi and Sam, and they're looking around as if they don't know where to go. And he says, "Hey, come over here." And so there's a couple of thoughts. I'm going to stop there because that's all the story. First of all, why is it that Lehi was the guy in the white robe bids him to follow, and he does, and then he ends up in a waste. He's lost and he doesn't know what to do. And my thought on that, which there's probably a lot of interpretations. I'd love to hear if you guys have some good ones. But my interpretation was that we follow the guy in the white robe. Sometimes we'll consider that the prophet. Sometimes it's your stake president, your mission president, your bishop. And sometimes you'll follow their advice and you end up in a dreary waste. And you're like, how in the world did I get here? This is not what I expected because I followed the guy in the white robe. And I feel like that actually happens to most people at some point in their life where they realize that they followed the prophet and it didn't get them the result that they wanted to receive. And what did it do? Well, it caused Lehi to call on the name of the Lord. And what did the Lord do? He showed him where to go next. And everything turned out great. And you know what? If he hadn't followed the guy in the white robe in the first place, there's a pretty good chance that he wouldn't have been in the vicinity of the tree of life, So I think that that's one lesson we can learn. Sometimes you're going to try to follow someone who's a good guide. Now, I think there's a difference between, getting hurt or just being scared. I've followed good advice, and it's taken me into scary places, and it's ended up being good for me. But if you're listening to advice and it turns out to have harmed you, that's something that you need to be a little more skeptical of. But at any rate, so the first question is why did following the guy in the white robe lead you to a place where you're afraid? And I suspect that it's because it's a test. Sometimes the policies of the church go in directions that I think, whoa, this doesn't seem like a good direction. But I have not yet been injured by following those policies and that counsel. The Lord has always made me whole, despite how scary the situation has been. So the next part is why were Sariah and Nephi and Sam, why were they looking around as if they didn't know where to go? There's a big glowing tree. Just go to the... right? And I think that if I'm going to pull a lesson out of that, again, if you've got a good interpretation for this, I'd love to hear it. But my personal interpretation is that sometimes we feel like, why doesn't my family understand where to go? I figured it out. And I think the lesson to learn is that you shouldn't be stingy about sharing your testimony with the people who should already know that you have a testimony. I've heard an unfortunate number of people say that, I didn't hear my dad bear his testimony until I was, 15 years old. And it shouldn't be that way. We should make sure that our kids know exactly what we think. We should make sure our brothers and sisters and our parents know that we have a testimony of the gospel. We shouldn't, just hope that they're going to figure it out because we did. We should always be sharing that testimony. I think that's the lesson I would learn from that part of the Lehi story, is that don't be shocked if they're like, I don't know where to go. I've heard my kids considering, I would say, ideologies that I find abhorrent, And it's not because they're abhorrent. It's because they're playing around with all the ideas in the world. And if I don't tell them where I stand on these ideas, they're going to be standing at the head of the river of water looking around as if they don't know where to go. And it may seem obvious to me, but if I haven't shared that with them, it might not be obvious. And it probably isn't obvious. So I would encourage all of us, make sure that your families know the things that you hold dear, the principles that have really blessed your life. And I'm going to leave it there. I hope I can hear a bunch of good comments, and have a great day.